Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a really fascinating topic, the connection between what we eat and how we feel. Specifically, we're going to look at the science behind meat and mental health. We hear all the time that our diet shapes our physical health, right? That connection is pretty solid. But what about our minds? Does the food on your plate actually have a real, measurable impact on your psychological well-being? Well, that's the big question we're going to explore today. Now look, the whole meat eater versus vegetarian debate can get pretty intense. There are a lot of strong opinions out there. But for this explainer, we're going to sidestep all of that. We're going to cut through the noise and look directly at what a huge scientific paper found when it examined this very relationship. Okay, so our guide on this journey is something called a systematic review. Now, this isn't just one single study with a handful of people. It's a method that's designed to bring together all the best available evidence to paint the clearest, most reliable picture possible. So, what is a systematic review, really? Think of it like a study of studies. Researchers basically act like investigators. They go out and collect all the high-quality research on one specific question. Their job is to weigh all of it together to see what the overall scientific consensus is. It's one of the most powerful tools we have to get a bird's-eye view of the science. And when I say bird's-eye view, I mean it. The review we're looking at is just massive. It pulled together data from 18 different studies, covering, get this, over 160,000 people. That is an enormous amount of data, which means the findings carry some serious weight. And just so you know exactly where this is all coming from, this is the paper. It's called Meat and Mental Health, a Systematic Review, published in the journal Critical Reviews in Food Science and Nutrition. We're going straight to the source here. All right, so after sifting through data on more than 160,000 people, what did this huge review actually uncover? Let's get right into the results. Okay, this chart gives us the top-level view, and it's pretty striking. Out of the 18 studies they analyzed, a clear majority, that's 11 of them, found a link between avoiding meat and having poorer psychological health outcomes. Meanwhile, only 3 studies found that meat abstainers had better outcomes, and 4 found no real difference. And if we zoom in on specific conditions, that pattern gets even sharper. The paper reports that for both depression and anxiety, the majority of the studies pointed to a higher prevalence or risk among people who didn't eat meat. And the connection with self-harm was even more pronounced, showing significantly higher rates of both attempts and thinking about it. But, and this is a huge but in science, not all studies are created equal. The researchers knew this, so they didn't just count up the studies. They also dug into the quality of each one, looking for something scientists call methodological rigor. So what's the difference? Well, a high-quality study is the gold standard. It has large, diverse groups of people, uses objective clinical diagnoses, and, crucially, it accounts for other lifestyle factors, like exercise or income. A lower-quality study might use a small, specific group, rely on self-reported feelings, and not control for those other things that could be influencing the results. And this is where it gets really interesting. When the researchers focused only on the best quality studies, the trend became even clearer. In their own words, right from the paper, the most rigorous studies demonstrated that the prevalence or risk of depression and/or anxiety were significantly greater in participants who avoided meat consumption. Okay, so this leads us to the absolute most important question you have to ask when you see data like this. This is that classic scientific puzzle, the difference between a link and a cause. In other words, does not eating meat actually cause depression or anxiety? Is there a direct A causes B relationship here? That's the million-dollar question, right? And the researchers are incredibly clear and honest about this. The answer is, we just don't know. All this evidence shows a connection, an association, but it cannot prove that one thing is causing the other. It's that classic chicken or the egg problem. There are 2 big possibilities. Is it diet influencing the mind? Maybe some kind of nutritional pathway is at play when you abstain from meat? Or is it the mind influencing the diet? Is it possible that people who are already struggling with their mental health are more likely to make a big life change, like switching up their diet? The current evidence just can't tell us which way the arrow is pointing. So let's bring it all home. What's the final verdict from the authors after sorting through all this evidence? What's the real bottom line here? Well, their conclusion is very carefully worded and for good reason. They say, our study does not support meat avoidance as a strategy to benefit psychological health. Now notice, they're not saying that eating meat improves your mental health. They're saying that based on all the evidence, they can't recommend avoiding meat as a strategy to feel better. And that kind of leaves us with one last big question. This whole thing just goes to show how incredibly complex nutrition science is. With so many conflicting headlines out there, what can we actually trust? I think it shows just how important it is to look beyond the claims and really dig into the quality of the science itself. It's a great reminder that the most reliable answers often come from looking at the biggest possible picture. Thanks for joining me.